Well, happy 2025 to everyone listening and to Gare and Steph. We're recording on New Year's Day, just so you all know. And as we've been learning, Gare has a bigger social life than Steph and I. So,
I was like, let's not talk about everything we've learned.
I think Gare is out there being a social butterfly. So,
I do not consider last night to be social butterflyism. I like hung out on a friend's couch and then we went to the bar and I realized that like there was nobody there that I really wanted to talk to. So I like sucked down a drink as quick as I could, drank my friend's drink, and then I was like, let's go.
well, I mean, you made it to a bar. I did not.
I did make it to a bar. I fully regret the $12 that I spent, but I did make it to a bar.
Was that one drink or two drinks?
That was 2 drinks.
Damn, that's affordable.
I mean, it was a dive bar. It was a dive bar.
Okay, yeah.
I think if I would have stayed like one more hour, I probably would have gotten like stabbed in the kidney. But like, live on the edge.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I fell asleep at like 10. I didn't even make it.
It was the earliest AJ ever fell asleep on the couch. It was like of all the days. It wasn't even 9 o'clock. And I was like, you just want to go to bed. Just go to bed.
Yeah.
It's like all the
clips of Anderson and Anderson Cooper and Andy Cohen are cracking me up though. And I'm like, damn, I should have actually watched it.
I'll have to check out more.
I took an hour and 45-minute nap in the afternoon yesterday, and then I like laid down for an hour before I even like left my house, and I like could have fallen asleep at 11 o'clock.
Wow.
I don't know. Late nights are just not my vibe anymore. New Year's is not my vibe anymore. Like,
how many of them have actually been good? Like looking back on them, I like don't even think when I like made the effort, they were fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot of money and a lot of effort and a lot of time just for you to like feel like shit. And like the thing that I've realized in my like social butterfly era that I've been in is like it's the random Thursday nights where you go out for dinner with friends and you have like a few too many drinks and you run into people that you like haven't seen in a while or something. Like those are like the fun nights. It's not the nights that you like New Year's Eve that you like prepare for and think is going to be like amazing.
Yeah. Okay.
Or your birthday. Like you're like, oh, let's celebrate my birthday. And then like bullshit.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're right.
It's just like the random times.
I don't know why this year I was also seeing all the stories about how people were wearing adult diapers to get their spot in Times Square.
Oh, yeah.
That's the thing they always do, but I had not heard it until this year. And I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me.
Because you can't leave your spot.
No.
I know. It had to smell terrible to be in that crowd.
So, like, I went to like a fall fest in my very like upstate tiny ass small town and like was there for 2 hours and I had to use the porta potty once and it was like a disaster. And I would imagine that there's just a ton of porta potties all over like New York City for Times Square because like no store is going to be like, oh, we'll stay open so you can use. That's what I was thinking last night.
Yeah, I would never.
No. And like I'm a child. Like at the end of the day, like the minute I start drinking and I like pee once, I break the seal still to this day. And I'm like, I have to pee every 10 minutes, like once I'm drinking. Yeah. So like, no way.
Dude, nothing reminds me how lucky I am to be able to work at home as much as like going somewhere for like 6 hours and being like, damn, I really just drink my water bottle and pee all day.
Yeah.
I just don't notice it because I'm just here.
Yeah, I totally get that. That's how I feel like if I go have drinks with like friends and like my friend will make fun of me because I'm like, listen, like if I know I'm going to have a few drinks, I have pots. So like I'm not supposed to really drink alcohol, but like if I know I'm going to have drinks, I'm going to drink a ton of water before. So I'm like extra hydrated. But then I start drinking alcohol and then I'm like peeing every like 15 to 20 minutes. And my friend like is like, you have a tiny bladder. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just like literally full of water right now. Yeah. And I don't realize how much I pee throughout the day because like I don't have some like emotional terrorist reminding me every time I have to go.
I know in the morning, especially when I'm with my coffee, because I'm like comfortable and reading under my blanket. And then I'm like, God, I have to like get up. I'm like, I have to get out from under my blanket in my perfect little cozy spot like 15 times.
Yeah. If I'm not ready to, I think he's asleep. If I'm not ready to walk the dogs, I just try to like stay completely still in bed and not move. So they don't know that I'm awake yet. Because the second they know I'm awake, they're like, hey, let's go outside. Let's go for the walk. Let's do it all.
Yeah, we're ready to cause chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this life agent of chaos. Well, Steph had a really good idea for an icebreaker for this week.
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay. I'm still struggling to figure out my answer, but
You can go last.
because there's like I think this is one of the one times, maybe more, I don't know, that like my reading goals and my regular life are kind of opposite. So mine was, I've seen some really cool, like, what is your word of the year? Like, the example is I saw one book account where she used the word refined because she's trying to like declutter her life and find her taste and be like, hey, that's really cool, but that's not for me. Like, it's really cool, trendy, whatever, but trying to just like minimize her brain space. And I thought that was super cool. So I've been trying to figure out mine. And I was wondering what you two thought.
I had a couple things. So back in September, I think, Tyler and I listened to a book called Rich AF. And it's all about like manifesting different things into your life, especially money, which is great. But she asks you a question at one point, and it is like, what would feel like your ideal day, or like kind of the same question, like, is there a word or a phrase? And so when I was even listening to it, then it was I thought of like immersed in story. Like if I got to be immersed in story all the time, all day, every day, that would be very exciting. So that was what kind of came to mind. But then the other thing that she really talks about is like that I'm getting woo woo here. So if anyone doesn't like woo woo stuff, just fast forward or something. But if you're not vibrationally in alignment with what you're saying you want, it's not necessarily going to just make it happen. And so a lot of that book was talking about like knowing what you would vibrationally be like attuned for. So if I was going to narrow it down to one word, alignment was the word that I was thinking. Just like to be more in alignment with my skills. So like I would love this year to help authors with like book launches and stuff. So it's like that would be a little more in alignment with who I am and like what I have to offer, which sounds so silly. So I really want to do that this year. So it's like just more things that are in alignment with the skills that I have.
When you say vibration, does that mean just like being in tune with what you want? Like you can't want one thing when it like goes against everything that you are. Like, is that what they're saying?
Yes.
I think that totally makes sense. Like thinking about what you have to offer and then making a goal rather than a goal, and then you don't really have that to offer. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
And taking action. So like the example I really loved was like actually Mackenzie Green, who was on this podcast once. She was who turned me on to this book. And then when I heard her talking about it, she said she had roommates who like were like, they watched The Secret in college and they're like, I can manifest whatever I want. And so they put like $1 million check on their ceiling, and she like came home one day and like he and his girlfriend were just staring at it on the ceiling. And she was like, what's that? And he's like, well, we want $1 million. So we're gonna manifest it. And she's like, how are you a vibrational match when you're just sitting in bed staring up at the ceiling and you're like, oh, there's $1 million? Like, you're not going to get it that way. So the book does like a really cool job of helping you kind of think through that, where it's like, what's the stuff that your actions will match it, and it's stuff that you want to do as well.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
How the fuck am I going to follow up with that? That wasn't even woo woo. That was just like probably one of the most like inspirational TED Talks I've ever heard in my entire life.
Well, I'm glad. Like, it's a great book.
Well, it's realistic. It makes sense. Yeah.
There's something about Kate though that like I could read that book and be like, oh, okay, like vibration, blah, 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 blah. But then like when Kate says it, I'm like, holy fuck. Like, is this my life coach? Like, it's like the clouds separated and I hear like Jesus like telling me that like everything's gonna be okay. And I'm not even religious.
My gosh,
these are mine.
because we started watching the new we were starting to watch, our friend watched this thing with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he was like, you know what's crazy is like he's motivational without being motivational. He's not like this guy that comes at you with quotes and seems really like preachy about being like, you got to do this, you got to do this. Like he just is. And I think that's what I'm gathering you're saying about Kate is like, you're not like trying, and you just are.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Kate just has like a very like level head with like every situation though. So I'm like, it's like always a little inspiring. Like even when she's talking about like takeout, I'm like, yeah, she's right. Like
in that route, that's kind of funny because sometimes like I get worked up about stuff too though, and sometimes Tyler's like, I just want to know what it's like to be as passionate about something as you are. Like, well, you totally do.
Yeah, sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
It's cracked up to me.
Exactly.
no.
But yeah, it's actually Rich as Fuck. It's not Rich AF, but I did want to shout out Amanda Francis. She's like, what you're saying too, what's cool about what you just said about me is that's how we felt about her approach in this book, where we were like, this is like manifestation, but also feels really practical and like grounded and stuff that makes sense. And I think that's why it clicked for us too. She's very matter of fact, and she reads the audiobook. And she cracks me up and had some really good points.
I also like love when like somebody has like a book like that, but they have like a good voice in it. You know what I mean? It's not like you have to like do this. And because I've been seeing like a lot of things about like manifestations as well. And it's like kind of like what your example was of like the check. And it's like you have to like, if you want to manifest something and you want to like go after something, like you have to like take the opportunities that like come at you that like are, you know, related to this goal. You have to like put in the work yourself, and you have to like also believe that you can attain it instead of just like waiting for it to come to you because you say something in the mirror 3 times or something. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
So
yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. Well,
you guys are just gonna be like, same.
Yeah. My, I guess, like, outlook or word of 2025, I think, is, like, oddly enough, like, intentions, but, like, also, like, being selfish with them.
Yeah.
And, like, the sense that, like, I felt like we've had so many conversations about, like, reading habits, being mood readers, and like how the balance of that like affects like our lives and stuff. And like Kate was like, I've had a great reading year, but I also like read less books because I could go to the movies when I wanted to. Like I took my dogs for like a WALK. I don't want them to hear me. Like I was able to like do things like that. And I was like thinking about like 2024, and I was like, I need to realize that like I love creating content for Bookstagram and I love reading, but like this is a hobby that I want to have fun with. So like I can't pressure myself to like read 150 books. I don't want to be that person that's like, I have to have this book done by this day. Like I want to be more selfish and like what I'm reading. I want to be more selfish and like taking time with my dog, my family, my friends. Like if I want to go out to dinner, if I want to go to the movies, like I'm just going to do it instead of being like, oh no, I have to do like X, Y, and Z, you know, other than like work, because like I need to make money. Like everything else, I think I need to be more like a little bit more selfish and like what I want and what like aligns with like how I'm feeling in that moment, instead of being like, oh, I don't really want to go out to dinner, but like I'll go see this friend because I haven't seen them in a while. You know what I mean? Like, why should I be the one that like has to like be like, I don't really want to go, but like I'm gonna force myself to, or like vice versa, you know? So I think I'm just gonna try to be a little bit more selfish and like intentional, because I don't want to waste my time doing things I don't want to do, or reading things I don't want to read, or forcing myself to do things that like really are not that big of a deal. Like I do not need to force myself to read 3 or 4 books in a week. If it happens, it happens. And if I read one, so be it.
Yeah. I wanted to read this because you're mentioning we kind of discussed some of this on an episode a couple of episodes ago. And so we had someone in the YouTube comments who said, this was an episode of us three. He said, I love you guys and look forward to every episode. Usually I listen to the podcast during the commute, but occasionally I do watch on YouTube. I'm a voracious thriller reader. I notice a lot of book YouTubers who are stressed and pressured by the volume of books they read or expect themselves to read. He says, I think it's a he. It's Finrickson is like the username. I literally never felt that way until I started watching booktubers, and now I'm starting to feel that way too. I read on my iPad, and I usually would average about 70 books per year and was totally happy. Now with YouTube, I'm like, I'm only going to come in around 80 books this year. But I feel all this unnecessary self-imposed pressure, and all I can equate it to is my booktube watching. But at the end, it says, I don't know. I think a lot of us bookish people may have some similar personality traits. And I think that might be why we turn our love of reading into a pressure thing for ourselves. And I was like, that is an interesting concept, because you do hear, like, obviously we talked about it on some of our favorite subgenres episode, but it's like, I wonder if some bookish people are just a little more like high strung about goals and all of that stuff, and you don't want to ruin something you love.
I used to be like that.
See all these other content creators being like, well, I read 255 books, and it's like, well, what am I doing? And they're like, well, you're just living your life, and if you read 12 books, you still like reading. Okay. Yeah. But you also have, like, when you watch and listen to so many things, you're also like, your list grows exponentially. I think that's kind of the pressure too of like, there's so much you want to experience.
I like also like unintentionally read 15 books in December and like did not pressure myself. Like I think my TBRs started off at like 4 or 5. And then the next thing I knew, like I was doing my like wrap up for December, and I was like, these were all 4 or 5, because I was a little like selfish and like a little like, I'm gonna read this backlist, I'm gonna read what I want. And so like that's why I was like, this was a really good reading month. But like when I see reading wrap ups too, I kind of like take more from the ones that are like 10 and less in a month than the ones that are more than that, because I'm like, if you read less than 10 bucks, you probably took away a lot more from those reading experiences than the person that read more than 10 and like was just like, okay, I just finished this, like what am I reading next, like what's on my TBR, like what do I have to read by like this date or whatever. And so like I'm like, maybe you didn't take away as much, or like you weren't able to like fully enjoy the reading experience if you pressure yourself that much.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's interesting, going back to your goal or your intentions, Gare. I think that when you were talking, I was like, I think people that are good friends of yours would be like, yeah, those are good goals. And like, you would want the same for them. Like when you were saying, like, if I don't really want to do something, I'm not going to do it. Like, I think like your friends would be like, well, if you don't want to go, then don't go, you know? So it's just like, I think that if you have people that you love like in your life, like you'll do that for each other. So I think that that's cool. Or like I've learned that those are my people where it's like, hey, can you reschedule? Because like, can you do this day instead? They'll be like, yeah, cool, whatever, or something.
Yeah.
I honestly, I only have one friend. I only have one friend that would like give me a hard time over that. And it's not because like they're necessarily selfish or anything. I think it's just because we spend so much time together that like if I were to try to cancel or reschedule, they would just be like upset that we weren't hanging out. But like other than that, I think that like I generally do like the people that I spend time with in person, and you guys too, because you know we record a lot, like are very understanding of like, I'm not feeling it, I feel sick, or like whatever, like you know what I mean. But like I also include you guys in the people that I spend a lot of time with, because we do this so often, and I love that.
We have our unhinged 3-person group chat.
Always.
which I gave the sweetest name to, which is so unlike me.
Sometimes when I'm looking for it still, I'm like, where is Gare and where is Gare and Steph? Oh yeah.
I was like, oh my God, look at me. I was nice to 2 people this year in 2024.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay. So my thought was I wanted to do unapologetic because it's like I want to do what I want when I want to and not feel bad about it. But I was like talking to AJ and I was like, I think I kind of already do.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Because I was like, I don't know, this last year I was like, yeah, I gotta get out of here. So just like travel, like we did an episode, I like traveled by myself. I'm like, I just want to do that more of like do what I need, that like what fills my cup, even if people are like, what are you doing? Like there's people at your house, you have I don't know, whatever. Like make it work. So I'm still trying to figure out my personal one. And I'm also like pretty unapologetic about like my personality traits. Like I've been trying to just like own them and be more comfortable and confident and just like I am a structured person. I do like to plan ahead. I do have my calendar figured out for the next multiple weeks, so but book wise, I think mine is kind of like chill out. Which is not typically me because I just want to be like, all right, I'm clearing my NetGalley shelf. I'm going to read what's on my shelf. And I kind of just want to go peruse the library. Or like I want to just like go to the bookstore and be like, that sounds good. Or like, I want to pre-order to support authors. But another piece of me is like, you can always go get it. It's going to be or it's going to be.
Yeah, that's still supporting them.
Yeah, you don't need to have it like right now. Yeah. Even though it's exciting. So I kind of want to just get into that. Like you've said, Gare, just like be a mood reader. So I think that's my bookish one is like chill out.
That's like I'm really excited for my next trip to the bookstore because we've had so many conversations about Backlist and like we've recommended so many things and we've talked about like so many things that like weren't necessarily on our radar that like now I'm excited to go to the bookstore because like before I'd be like I have an arc of this, I have this on NetGalley, blah, blah, blah. But like now I can go and be like, oh, like here's a list of all of these things that are already out that like I haven't read, were on my radar, and now I can go to the bookstore and like find them and take them home, and it just feels really good.
Yeah, I agree. I may have mentioned this, so I'm sorry if I did, but I have like some of my like interviews booked into like May right now, and it's kind of nice just like knowing the ones that I will be doing, and so I don't really have to think about it. And it's like, okay, so I already know a lot of the 2025 ones that I'm going to read for interviews, so then it's like I have the time open for other books, and it's not like, oh, who am I going to get on the podcast on Tuesday? So that's been kind of nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is
and
really
it's
cool.
kind of fitting that we're going to talk about Backlist books.
Yeah.
Since so much of our whatever, those weren't resolutions, those were like word of the year, I guess that's just what we say. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we're going to discuss even more Backlist.
I just think it's like I always have so much fun when we discuss like Backlist books because it's like something that like one of us could have already read and be like, oh, you'll love this, or like somebody who is listening like might be like, oh my God, I love that book, like I love like revisiting that reading experience by hearing them talk about it, compared to being like, here's a book that we're going to talk about that like nobody's read yet because it's not out. So like sometimes the Backlist ones are like fun for me because I feel like it's like sometimes it's more exciting to read something that's been out for a while than it is like something that just came out and everybody is going back and forth about.
And I feel like it's accessible. That's more accessible to listeners, I think, who maybe do use the library or go to the store that like don't. I just realized like this year I just got into like NetGalley. Before I'm like, I only read what books were already out.
Oh yeah.
I was kind of.
I think it saves like money too, because like even when we do it and you guys recommend a book to me, like the first thing I do is I check out like Pango, or I see how much it is on Kindle, and like obviously a book that's been out for a while is like going to be cheaper on Kindle or more available on Pango than something that just came out like a couple weeks ago. So, that's always like fun too, like the hunt for like the best book price.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
totally.
So we each have 4.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah, I'm gonna start off with the one. So that it's been these conversations that made me start Bookwild's Backlist book club as well. I mean, also I couldn't pass up that alliteration either. It's just too perfect.
Yeah.
But Laura, who this month it was some emergencies came up, so it was just me and Laura, and we just were shooting the shit about the Brightlands, and then also we are both obsessed with We Used to Live Here, so we talked about all kinds of stuff. But she actually recommended a couple books, and this was the one we ended up choosing. It's Hostage by Claire McIntosh. I'm excited because I think it's going to be very fast paced, and we know how I feel about that. You can save hundreds of lives or the one that matters most. The atmosphere on board the inaugural nonstop flight from London to Sydney is electric. Numerous celebrities are rumored to be among the passengers in business class, and journalists will be waiting on the ground to greet the plane. Mina is one of the hand-picked team of flight attendants chosen for the landmark journey. She's trying to focus on the task at hand and not worry about her troubled 5-year-old daughter back at home with her husband, or the cataclysmic problems in her marriage. But the plane has barely taken off when Mina receives a chilling note from an anonymous passenger, someone intent on ensuring the plane never reaches its destination, someone who needs Mina's assistance and who knows exactly how to make her comply. It's 20 hours to landing. A lot can happen in 20 hours.
Dang.
I know.
Dang.
I've
Yeah.
never read, I don't think I've read anything by her, but I've seen her name a lot.
I know. I feel like I see her name more and more lately. And I had seen people talking about this one. I just kind of forgotten about it. It's from 2021. Lisa Jewell blurbed it and says feels like a blockbuster movie. So there's that. But yeah, if anyone is interested, I'll just plug that here just in case anyone is. We're meeting on January 19th at noon Eastern time. So, and you can, there's a link in the show notes if you want to go sign up for it.
That's awesome.
I have not read Hostage, but I'm very curious.
I know. I don't think I've read. Who's the one who does the who's the female author who does a lot of like is it Drowning? She does like all of the plane related books.
I think it's TJ Newman. AJ
Yeah.
just read the first one, which I think is
Falling. Yeah, I think
I read Drowning.
Yeah,
read the second one.
I haven't really read anything on a plane, so I'm excited to try it out.
I will say I have read Let Me In and I Let You Go by Claire McIntosh. And they are very good for people who like Lisa Jewell and like psychological thrillers.
Nice.
I Let You Go is one of the best twists in a book that I've ever read.
Damn. Oh my gosh. Well, that's high praise.
I want to read it again. Yeah.
And let me put this on my list.
I would say like Lisa Jewell and Alice Feeney. Like, you know how like they always like have that thing where they like kind of like wallop you with like plot twists or like something you didn't see coming. Yeah.
Yeah. So I Let You Go is the one you said has the crazy twist.
Yeah.
Why can I not spell her name?
It's Claire with no I.
Yeah, there's no
C-L-A-R-E.
I. I couldn't find it either at first.
I was butchering the last name too while I was just typing into Goodreads. Okay.
Yeah, it is a unique spelling of her last name too.
Gare, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to stick with Bleak.
Hell yeah.
Good.
Mine are all over. Like,
Gare.
I am so proud of this list because they're not like, oh, here's serial killers. We're like all Bleak, but like I'm actually really proud of like my little list here. There's only one I don't have a visual for, so this is on my Kindle. But it's called Take It Back by Kia Abdullah. The victim, Jody Wolf, a physically flawed 16-year-old, accuses 4 boys in her class of something unthinkable. The defendants, 4 handsome teenagers from hardworking immigrant families, all with corroborating stories. The savior, Zara Khalil, a former lawyer, one of London's brightest legal minds, takes on this case. She believes her client, even though those closest to her do not. Together, they enter the most explosive criminal trial of the year, where the only thing that matters is justice for Jody. But this time, justice comes at a devastating cost. And it says it's a shocking, twisting courtroom thriller that keeps you guessing until the last page is turned.
Ooh. This one. Yeah, you mentioned this to me a little while ago. I'm very intrigued.
I have heard it's like super bleak, obviously.
It sounds bleak.
But I've never really like read like a courtroom thriller. And especially one that's like twisty. And the only thing that I can think of that I've read was Defending Jacob, which I absolutely loved. And
Debbie Babbitt's, right?
Debbie Babbitt's had like a little bit, but it wasn't like a courtroom thriller throughout. I think it was just like a public or a judge. But yeah, like Night Swim had like the court aspect, and so did Defending Jacob. And I was like, you know what? I like really stuck with those books, and like those were really good reading experiences. So I'm gonna give this a shot, especially if it's bleak.
Yeah, it seems like a few of hers that I haven't read anything by her, but I think the ones I have heard of, I think a lot of them are courtroom-ish.
Yeah.
I will say,
I'm very like interested.
Kind of really liking the legal thriller. This one doesn't take place all in the courtroom, but The Silent Watcher by Victor Mathos. It has a really creepy serial killer element to it, but the main character is a guardian ad litem. So basically this girl's whole family is like violently murdered. I think she's like between 12 and 15. I can't remember. And so she's trying to help her through this whole legal process while also trying to find out who killed her family. And the ending is creepy as fuck. So that would also be kind of up your alley, since it has the serial killer in it too.
Yeah. I'm going to. This is like one too that I think you brought on my radar because you got a physical copy of it, and like the inside.
Yes.
The inside was like super crazy. So yeah, I'm going to rock the shit out of that.
Did either of you read 13 by Steve Kavanaugh? Oh, that looks good.
The side cover has that too.
I love that.
Oh yeah, it's really pretty. So yeah, I can also send it to you if you end up wanting to read it.
One of my intentions is to use my Kindle more.
Oh, nice.
So I'm getting both of them on Kindle right now. The Steve Kavanaugh one I'm going to get to because I've heard incredible things about that, and I needed to put that on my radar.
Yeah,
I've heard really good things. And then there's this show that just came out called like Juror Number 2. Okay, and I think they have similar plots. That's why I brought it up.
Did you?
I watched Juror Number 2, and it was so freaking good, you guys.
Okay, I think that's so kind of what 13 is, like a similar concept.
Yeah, it's the setup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would need to read 13.
Yeah, oh my god, you guys, this is just the best. Look at me filling up my little.
So much fun.
Yes.
I also am considering being a 2 Kindle kind of guy.
2 Kindle? What does that mean?
Like I have my Paperwhite, but I also want like the little matcha one too.
Oh, yeah. So you would still use both of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know I've seen people with multiple Kindles.
I saw a woman on TikTok who had 5.
Yeah.
She's like, this is my bed Kindle. This is my couch Kindle. This is my purse Kindle. This is my work Kindle. And this is my vacation one in case I use. I was like, damn, mama. Damn.
All the girls think that she's reading the same book.
Yeah.
You think? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My phone is my everywhere Kindle.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
The matcha one's adorable though.
I can't do it.
Capitalism really popped off with that one.
I want the matcha one with like the clear case, but I also want one of those pop sockets that like you can move around, like not the sticky one, but like one that like you can move like wherever. I can't find them. I'm probably gonna need help from somebody who's young.
You can get
I'm looking at you.
I was gonna say, you can get cases that are magnetic. And so kind of like how like the iPhones are. So like this is my pop socket for my iPhone that snaps on. I know you can get Kindle cases that are all magnetic and then you can put it wherever. Sometimes a magnetic one might be it.
I just needed somebody younger. No, I like literally did, because I was like Kate was like, oh, like my phone is my Kindle on the go, and I was like, I can't do that on my Kindle because like if I read on my phone, my eyes start to hurt, so then I'd have to remember to bring my blue light glasses with me, and I was like, this, I'm just turning into an old.
Oh, that's true. I have it in my glasses, so I never even. So maybe that's why it's even different. Yeah.
That's nice.
Because if I start like being the person that has to have like blue light glasses in my car and have my desk and like in my like to go bag when I like run errands, and then like I start have to have like reading glasses, I'm gonna be like, oh God, Garrett. Well,
I'm not forcing you to read on your phone either. This is more a general announcement for anyone. But you can also turn your screen black and the words can be white. And I prefer that so much. And I don't even know if you guys can see it. I make my font huge. So just my tips for anyone who really is an obsessive digital reader like me.
Yeah.
I want to be.
Do you ever like switch from reading? Because you both read all kinds of forms, and then Steph even listens. Are you ever like, if you've been reading on your Kindle and then you're reading a physical book and then it gets dark, are you ever like, oh, this is so annoying that I have to find another light source?
I keep a light on anyways.
Me too.
Okay.
I always like, I have like a little lamp near the chair that I read a lot in. And so like, I don't like read in bed that much when it's like dark.
I read a lot when I wake up or the dogs wake me up, I'll end up reading in bed.
Oh, yeah. To AJ's dismay, I keep my side lamp light.
Oh, like overnight?
Like from probably like 9 to 10 p.m. or whatever.
Oh, okay. Okay. That makes sense.
Well, otherwise I do have like a little book light, but I don't have funky now when I travel. But that has been the nice thing about having a Kindle is like when I travel now, it's like I'll just make sure that's all I'm bringing.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, looking back on when I'm like, as a person who's paranoid about the condition of their book to travel with multiple books, I'm like, oh God.
Yeah.
I also like think it's like really interesting too, because like traveling with a Kindle just like makes more sense because like when I travel, like my biggest thing is like if I bring 2 books with me, what if they both suck? Or not like suck, but like what if I can't get into them? You know?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
My friend is going to India, and so she asked me for recommendations for her Kindle so she doesn't have to bring physical books, because I was like, just do Kindle Unlimited for the month. Like that's a lot of reading time if you don't like what you have.
Yeah.
So speaking of Kindle Unlimited,
nice.
I'm pretty sure this is on there. And I would like to read it this month based on the title. My next book in the Jolvik series by Faith Gardner is What January Remembers. And this one, for people that haven't heard of it, they're like regular thrillers, but they have like a very near future, slightly techie part of the plot. But if that's not usually your jam, you'll probably still like it. 'Tis the season for another dysfunctional family Christmas story, only this time with murder and robots. The Jaggers were once a tight-knit family, but after their mother's tragic death years ago, the 4 children and their father have drifted apart. The children grew up, moved away, and now have lives of their own. And Dad, well, let's just say his new live-in friend, January, also has a permanent residence in the uncanny valley. After a disturbing Christmas 2 years ago, the Jaggers wish they could forget. They're giving it one more shot this year. But in the weeks before they gather, the children each get a sinister note in the mail saying, "Your mother was murdered." Could this be the bizarre work of January, or could one of the Jaggers really be the reason their mother is dead? A domestic suspense novel with a sci-fi twist. This book is part of the Jolvix episodes. I think this is number 3.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, it
A little,
does.
I guess I probably could have read it for Christmas time, but we're going to do January, I think.
We're in January.
We're in January.
You know what though? We don't give a shit. Read it whenever you want.
Shit.
Read it in the summer.
We're chilling out.
We're not pressuring to read when we want to. We're just gonna talk about books all the time and fill up our TBR until we all rip our hair out,
Yeah.
Yes.
and then we'll be the bald Bookwild book club.
Bookwild's bald backlist book club. And Gare Bleak blowjob. What was the other one? Billings.
Bitchy.
Bitchy. Yes.
Yeah. Cynthia. I don't know
Weiner,
if it's Weiner.
I think.
Is it Weiner?
That's my guess.
She messaged me and was like, "Your episode was hilarious."
Yeah.
Of that, and like you guys talking about it, and I was like, "This is amazing. I love."
I
And she was
know.
like, "If you ever want to like know more about it, just send me a DM."
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, "You're obsessed."
Well, I mean, I was gonna read it, but we definitely have to read it. She DM'd me when I tagged her yesterday, and she's like, "I already told Gare this, but I was cracking up hearing you guys talk about my book. It meant so much."
Like,
You just don't think of it like that the authors will be listening always.
I know, it was like really cool to have somebody like reach out to me and be like, "I loved your," like, it hasn't I mean, I'm sure it's happened a couple of times since you started podcasting, but like the first time was really cool when it was like Jamie Lynn Hendricks.
Mm-hmm.
Like she like reached out and was like, "You need to like hang out with Kate. You need to be
I know.
friends." And then like authors started being like, "Oh, it's so cool that I heard you talk about my book." And I was like,
Yeah. It's crazy. Because for anyone who hasn't ever recorded a podcast, you really like, we just feel like we're kind of hanging out right now. And it's easy to forget that there just are people listening, or like, because it's not 10,000 people listening, you're like, oh, how many people really are listening? But they really are. It's kind of fun having it.
I feel like even if we did have 10,000 people listening, which like 2025 goals, right?
Fuck yeah.
But like, even if we did, like, I just don't feel like anything would change.
No, I
Like, we would all be like our unhinged.
because you
little,
never
like-
start seeing the people. We just see each other and we're like just talking with each other.
Yeah. But like one
Yeah.
of the things that I like love about my friendship with the two of you is that like I don't feel like I have to like reel anything in or like change anything about
Mhm.
like, you know, like what I say or how I act or how like bitchy, bleak, and however many blowjobs I give. Like I can just be like my true self.
I love that. That's like my favorite thing for someone to tell me, is that they feel like they can be themselves.
You guys are my safe space.
Exactly. Because you
That's what
know
the
that
kids
quote
say.
that's like, be who you needed when you grew up. Like, I literally just want people to feel safe being themselves around me. So that's my favorite thing for someone to say.
Also, as I'm like nearing 40 years old, I am too old to be anything but me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's just like, if I'm gonna make new friends at this point in my life, not that I'm old, but I'm like,
Right.
nobody should be putting their energy to like shaping themselves towards a group of people. Like, find your group where like you can be that.
Mm-hmm.
I would hope. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think like I also like noticed too, like when even if we're not talking about like books and stuff, like I find myself like sending you guys like silly little like drunk text messages and I was like, that's when you know, like I'm like, all right, I'm obsessed with you guys because like I'm tipsy or toasty and like, well, let you know I love ya.
You're like, maybe Kate's awake and she'll read this. Or she'll just wake up to it.
We might respond at 10 a.m. the next day, but we still love it.
When the grown-ups wake up the next morning, they'll see it.
Oh, that's the best. I actually I recorded an episode yesterday that was like a recap, and I was actually talking about that, how cool it was to meet so many cool people, you guys especially, through Bookstagram, because I don't meet people this way in person necessarily, and so I love that the internet could bring us all together.
There are some good
No.
things about the internet, and also
There are.
like that you can meet people that aren't creepy. You know.
Exactly. Well, it's
Mhm.
made by humans, so some parts are going to be good and some parts are going to be bad.
I
Yeah.
love how you're like, there's some people who aren't creepy, and I sent you guys the screenshot of like the creepy message I got on Instagram.
Well, remember like when you met people online, it was like in a chat room way back when, and your mates out like, "Oh my God, don't do it! You're gonna get abducted."
Yeah.
We're just like, "You seem cool. Let's try."
And I always like lied about my age.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm 22.
I'm definitely not 16.
Yeah, I'm definitely not like jailbait.
Yeah.
I would never do that though, like other than Bookstagram, because I watched the movie Megan is Missing,
Oh,
and it was the most disturbing movie I've ever watched in my entire life.
That sounds creepy.
pivoting a little bit. Obviously, very, very sad, bleak movie.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law, so Tyler's brother, his name is Cody. I'm assuming I can say his name. He basically he's gonna start reselling stuff on Shopify. You don't even need to know like what it is, but he drove like 8 hours to Pennsylvania to like pick up this guy's like playing card collection. It's like it was like hundreds of decks, so he drove to do that. And Cody is like, I think he's 6'4", if not taller than that. Like he's very tall, and as you can tell from what I'm saying, he's a man. And he started calling Tyler when he was like 30 minutes away from this place. And he was like, okay, so like, I'm going to put you on like FaceTime. So like, you can like see what I'm walking into, just so like, I mean, if anything happens, then like you can do something. All right. So yeah, can you just be available for like when I do get here, since I haven't actually met this guy? And he got off the phone, and I was like, Tyler, he's talking like he's like 100-pound girl going on a date for the first time. Like, I think he's gonna survive. He was so
The guy's like my height. I'm like 5'6". I'm like, some of that's my hair.
He's like a dude in his 70s. Like, I was like, I think you're gonna be okay.
All things to be picking up too. You know what I mean?
No, playing cards.
There's this but you know what, like protect yourself too, people,
Right.
because
Right, yes.
I remember watching this like true crime doc that was like every episode was like a different case or whatever, and this girl had like lived out in the middle of nowhere, and she talked to this guy online, and he was like, I'm in high school too. And then like she and her friend were having a sleepover, and they kept hearing weird noises, so they locked themselves in the bedroom, and then like they came out and like nothing was there, and they were like, oh, like we're just being like silly teenagers, and got freaked out for no reason. And then a couple weeks later, she went to meet the boy on the internet, and like it was a grown man, and he did kidnap and murder her. But like they found out that like when her and her friend were hearing noises in the house, he was in there. And it was just like terrifying.
Those reveals are always the ones that creep me out the most in books.
Yeah.
And I can't talk about them because it would ruin it. But I had 2 of those this year, maybe more, but 2 recently. I don't want to ruin it.
Yeah.
I know one, but I would like to know the other.
I know.
I know.
You haven't read it yet.
Am I going to?
I don't know.
Text me.
Okay. I won't pretend to.
I just got so needy. Like, oh my god. I felt like I was talking to Jacob Elordi. It's like,
text me.
give it to me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'll let you know. I mean, if you want to know.
I do.
Wow. Speaking of friendships and meeting new bookish people, right? I can't even remember who was the first person. I remember I started to see We Used to Live Here. And then one of my friends who DMs me, her name is Scylla, she was reading it and she was like, I really want you to read this. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm going to be able to fit it in. Then I started the Bookwild's Backlist book club. And in our first meeting, I brought up how someone really wanted me to read it. And both Justine and Laura, who were there, were like, Yeah, you need to. Like, we loved it. Well, no, Laura hadn't read it. I can't remember. Basically, I had so many people tell me I should read it, and then obviously, the obsession that ensued. Um, so I also then recently read Ian Reid's I'm Thinking of Ending Things, because people said you would probably like it if you loved We Used to Live Here. Definitely not a book that I like blanket recommend, because it's very unique. It's very, 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 very unique. It's a lot like thought experiments in a horror story, if that makes sense. So I've learned that it's called philosophical suspense when it's that. So kind of like how we learned emotional suspense with Mad Woman, I'm now learning that I like philosophical suspense or philosophical horror. So
Interesting.
I loved I'm Thinking of Ending Things. That was Ian Reid. And then he has a couple books, but the one that I want to read next is called We Spread. His name also, if anyone's trees.
A tree on the front?
Yeah, like tree branches. If anyone's looking him up, his name is Iain. So another different spelling. But this one is about
Kate's picking all the authors who have different spellings. So
I know. So unique, guys. Wait till I say the next author's name. Penny, an artist, has lived in the same apartment for decades, surrounded by the artifacts and keepsakes of her long life. She's resigned to the mundane rituals of old age until things start to slip. Before her longtime partner passed away years earlier, provisions were made, unbeknownst to her, for a room in a unique long-term care residence where Penny finds herself after one too many incidents. Initially surrounded by peers, conversing, eating, sleeping, looking out at the beautiful woods that surround the house, all is well. She even begins to paint again, but as the days start to blur together, Penny, with a growing sense of unrest and distrust, starts to lose her grip on the passage of time and on her place in the world. Is she succumbing to the subtly destructive effects of aging, or is she an unknown participant in something more unsettling? At once compassionate and uncanny, told in spare hypnotic prose, Ian Reid's genre-defying third novel explores questions of conformity, art, productivity, relationships, and what ultimately it means to grow old.
Wow.
I would expect this one to be pretty heavy. So
Yeah.
even his other one is very heavy, so it's like you want to be in that mood, but when you're in the mood to kind of like chew on some stuff mentally.
Ooh, 2 people I know that are like pretty picky readers gave it 4 stars, so that's pretty good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love how we're like once a month. I feel like Kate finds like a very, very, very specific genre. Like, what was it? Like dark academia fantasy?
Yes, with an Academy for Liars. Yeah, I got all room for that.
And like now she's like, oh, like physiological horror is like mini jam. Like, why? And you never guess like what's gonna come next.
I know. I also learned, because we watched the movie Blade Runner this week, I also learned that one of my subgenres is definitely tech noirs. So there's another one that I was like, oh, it was a noir. Totally.
Dang.
I'm just all over the place.
I love it though. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I never know what to expect.
Yeah. It was like when you told me I was an adventurous woman, and I was like, from my couch.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Reading adventures count.
Yeah.
This one girl and that like the review list for that book, she put it as I want to read, and she wrote, if you write one book I give 5 stars, you're stuck with me forever. I'm like a barnacle in that way, or a stalker.
Oh, I love that.
So she wants to put a different book by him, and then is like, you're stuck with me.
That's how I feel about it right now, but that's the best wording.
A barnacle. Yeah. Or a stalker.
I had you guys are gonna love this. I had a story to tell you, and I can't believe I haven't told you yet, but one of my friends that I know in real life is like oh, like I want something really good. Like recommend a really good book to me. So obviously I told her to read The Woman Inside.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, okay. And she's like, I don't know. I'm having a hard time getting into this. And I was like, okay, just give it a little bit. That's kind of strange because I feel like it like really takes off from the beginning.
It does.
So she finished it and she was like, that was anticlimactic. And I was like,
did you read the same book?
No, she didn't.
She didn't? That's why I thought it was going toward.
She read The Woman Inside by another author and she was like, she showed it to me and I was like, no, because I was like, you didn't love Sheila? Like, what about Rebecca and Paul and their like toxic, like back and forth? Like that was, the ending is very like batshit crazy.
It's not anticlimactic.
And she was like, who's Sheila? Who's Paul? Who's Rebecca? And I was like, oh my God, you read the wrong book.
You're 3 books now with that title.
Yeah, I think I saw a different one as well.
I knew that one other one.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, oops, oopsie poopsie. So now I'm going to have to start sending people screenshots when I recommend things.
Right.
Probably, honestly. What's your next one, Gare?
Oh, yeah. My next one, I honestly think I'm going to piggyback off from Kate because I think that this has a horror element to it.
Ooh, nice.
Oh, it does. And I have visuals for my next 3. So, Such a Pretty Smile by Christy DeMeester. I've heard of this, but she did a TikTok that was like, here are all of the real life locations that inspired the locations in the book, and like kind of like a little like video on TikTok. And I was like, that made me buy it. Nice. So I'm super excited for this one. If I butcher anything in the synopsis, Christy, I am so sorry. He's known as the Cure, C-U-R, and he leaves no trace except for the victims he viciously slays every 15 years. Young women who refuse to conform and don't know when to shut up. In 2019, 13-year-old Lila Sawyer has secrets she can't share with anyone, but when young women around her begin dying, wild speculation ensues. Soon, Lila feels haunted from within, terrorized by a delicious evil that shows her how to find her voice until she's in danger for using it. In 2004, Caroline Sawyer sees dogs everywhere that no one else seems to notice. As these snarling, teeth-bared delusions begin to take shape in the sculpture she makes in a trance-like state, her fiancé is convinced she needs help from a professional. But Caroline's past is a dark cellar filled with repressed memories and a lurking horror that others around her can't understand. As past and present demons converge, Carolyn and Lila must chase the source of its unrelenting power to its core, either to obliterate it or lose themselves forever.
That sounds very good.
That sounds super creepy.
Yeah.
I've seen really good things about that.
Oh, it's Kindle Unlimited too.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Says Publishers Weekly called it darkly visceral. And I was like, sign me.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds good.
But it kind of sounds like horror, like fuck the patriarchy, dual timeline, dual POV. So I'm like...
It does have feminism listed as one of its genres.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
I realized, I mean, granted, I think it's in a lot of thrillers right now, but probably, I'll just say majority of my top reads of the year, whether it be quarterly or my, like all my 5 stars, so many of them are dual timeline.
Yeah.
I like dual timeline.
I probably have read like, I don't even know that many books that aren't, honestly, anymore.
Yeah, especially with thriller, I think. Because like, I think when withholding information is an important part of the reading experience, which I think is the case in mystery and thrillers, I feel like that's why the whole dual timeline works, because it's like, you'll find out eventually.
Yeah, like how it connects.
Yeah.
A dual timeline combined with a dual POV, just like...
Oh, like Society of Lies.
Yeah. Yeah. That just like, especially when they like kind of like start to intertwine.
Yes.
Just gives me goosebumps.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
My next one is an author that I've been obsessed with for a long time, and I'm working my way through her backlist. And I think her books get a little more like drama going back, less thrillery. But my next one is Lisa Jewell's The Truth About Melody Browne. I think it's more like a mystery, not like her dark thrillers now, but I'm not sure. Can't say. Melody Browne can remember nothing before her 9th birthday. Now in her early 30s, Melody lives in the middle of London with her 17-year-old son. She hasn't seen her parents since she left home at 15, but Melody doesn't mind. She feels better off on her own. But when fragments of her past reemerge, she slowly begins to piece together the real story of her childhood. With every mystery she solves, another one materializes. With every question she answers, another appears. And Melody begins to wonder if she'll ever know the truth about her past. Moving and memorable, Lisa Jewell proves once again she's a master storyteller. I agree with that.
Us deep.
Writing strategy gets me. Yeah, like if I'm in a slump, I pick up one of her books, and like even her older ones that aren't as thrillery, like they still get me. So I think it's just her style that I like.
Yeah. Kind of like Lane Fargo.
Yeah.
She's got a really good like way of she's got a really good way with pacing that isn't typical of authors. Like there's something like special about the way she paces her books.
Yes, because I think you like somehow get to know characters without that many words. Like you get to care about them, but she doesn't over explain anything. It's not flowery. Like you just keep it going. And I think like you said with Lane Fargo, like that's a skill that's really interesting to me. Like either you care without knowing that much, or like she just has the right way of describing them.
Yeah. It was reminding me of when I interviewed Jeffrey Deaver and Isabella Maldonado, but he was the one who said it. He said like his approach to writing is that like the words should like melt away into the reader's brain. Like it should just be so like easily consumed that like you are just like in the story, going through the story, not overly thinking about the words you're reading. And obviously sometimes beautiful prose, I can sometimes really enjoy it, but I was like, I am the kind of person who does just want to like get into the story essentially.
Yeah, that's exactly as you were saying that, like where I struggle sometimes with lit fic. Like I just finished a thriller that was kind of both. And it was really good, but there are also moments where I did not feel the way you're describing, and I think those were the times.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. People's taste.
I feel like Gare's better with lit fic than we are.
It has to be like really
devastating, yeah.
Or like, yeah, it has to be. I was actually thinking about that the other night about like how some of my favorite books are like lit fic that like I didn't know if they would work for me. Like The Paper Palace.
I have to read that sometime because we loved it for so long.
A Density of Souls. How We Name the Stars. Like they just have to like really like emotionally like punch me, but like also like you get so used to the characters that it's not like you don't know something bad's gonna happen when it does. You know, it's not like it's like, oh, this person got murdered and like here's, you know, it's like, no, here I'm just gonna make you fall in love with these people and then put them through like wild shit.
Well, I did realize too that sometimes, like in the one I just finished, it was like the persons whose head we were in that was a little more literary, like still had a strong voice. And I think that's how I think sometimes it makes a difference to me.
Yeah.
Like the tone, I guess.
Yeah, I
agree. Well, my next one, I told you it has a wonderful name as well. This was a book that Hallie brought to my attention. It's called Out by Natsuo Kirino. Natsuo Kirino, if anyone's actively looking it up right now. This book is from 1997. Hallie just has like the coolest deep cuts ever. Like I just love it. So it starts, I'll just read the synopsis as they wrote it. Natsuo Kirino's novel tells a story of random violence in the staid Tokyo suburbs as a young mother who works a night shift making boxed lunches brutally strangles her deadbeat husband and then seeks the help of her coworkers to dispose of the body and cover up her crime. The ringleader of this cover-up, Masako Katori, emerges at the emotional heart and is one of the shrewdest, most clear-eyed creations in recent fiction. Masako's own search for a way out of the straitjacket of a dead-end life leads her to take drastic action. The complex yet riveting narrative seamlessly combines a convincing glimpse into the grimy world of Japan's Yakuza with a brilliant portrayal of the psychology of a violent crime and the ensuing game of cat and mouse between seasoned detectives and a group of determined but inexperienced criminal women. Carino has mastered a Thelma and Louise kind of graveyard humor that illuminates her stunning evocation of the pressures and prejudices that drive women to extreme deeds and the friendship that bolsters them in the aftermath. Like, how have I not read it yet? Some good revenge.
Yeah.
Some dark revenge.
Mm-hmm. What was her first name?
Natsuo. Natsuo.
Okay. Thank you.
Man, it's making me want to pick it up today. It is written in Japanese, so this is a translation, but yeah, I really want to read it. She brought it up for our the female rage thrillers that we did right after the election results.
Necessary.
Yeah.
See, I made AJ. This is what I told me I wanted for Christmas. It's a lady parts necklace.
Oh my god,
that's amazing. I also love that it kind of looks like the cross necklaces, but it's not.
I wore it out in public to two things, and I thought someone would say something, and I'm like, I think they're not, because I think they think it's a cross.
They're like, praise Jesus. I love that. Well, I don't know how to follow that, Kate. Okay, well, this is one that was on my radar. And the reason it's on my radar is because it said it's a combination of Mean Girls and Scream.
Whoa.
Gimme, gimme, gimme. Summer Rental by Rectalk Ross.
What a name.
Never heard of that.
Riley March and her friends are headed to ritzy, remote Palm Key Island for one last blowout party weekend before college. It's the vacation of a lifetime, beautiful beaches, epic nightlife, and hot guys like Riley's crush. Superstar soccer player Sebastian Ramos. There's just one catch. Everyone on the trip is hiding something. Riley's hiding her past in order to fit in. Sebastian is hiding his feelings for Riley, and someone is hiding what really happened to Jordan Chang, a classmate that mysteriously died last summer. Things take a dark turn after one of the friends goes missing, and a hurricane cuts the group off from civilization. Trapped inside their rental house, a killer stalks them one by one. No one is safe. Everyone's a suspect. As the body count rises, Riley and her friends will have to confront the secrets they've been keeping if they want to stay alive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Scream meets Mean Girls has to be very fun.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited for it. The Kirkus review on the back says, brace for impact, readers. Ross holds little back.
Wow.
Love her.
Oh my gosh. She is beautiful too.
She's stunning.
She is stunning.
I think she has like a wintry thriller too that like sounds really good.
Ski Weekend.
Ski Weekend, yes.
And Spring Harvest. She's really going through the seasons.
That is
interesting. Well, that's exciting.
Yeah. So
new authors alert.
In the mood for like a little like YA.
Yeah.
Something kind of, you know, bingey.
Mm-hmm.
And she's
her Ski Weekend one, it says The Breakfast Club meets Lord of the Flies.
Oh.
So yeah, she's just doing some interesting concepts. I like that.
I'm looking at some for other things, and there's one called The Pop Star and the Devil.
Oh my gosh, I just got to that one.
That's a really cool name.
That sounds like something I would love.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild. I wonder why her name is Liani Kocher. I wonder if it makes you choose the name Rectalk.
I know, right?
I wonder if there's something to that. Oh my gosh.
Trial attorney turned.
Gee, that's what I just said.
Good God.
Wow.
Spring Harvest says it's Coachella meets the Vampire Diaries.
Oh my gosh.
Give me all of it.
She's just kind
I
of
love
some
these
strong
comps.
concepts. I know.
They're all like kind of similar. Like the style of the comps are the same. So I'm like, did she come up with these or did someone else or like her publisher?
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if she approached it that way.
Yeah.
It's just like the way that she combines like two pop culture things that like I wouldn't normally combine, like Mean Girls and Scream. I love separately, but like combining them, I wouldn't. And like, I love like the Coachella vibe, but I also love the Vampire Diaries.
Yeah. This other one, Prodigal, is The Summer I Turned Pretty meets Friday Night Lights. So,
She really might have been writing with that perspective because I was following Danielle Valentine, or I do follow her for a while. And she talked about how she even like a way to get readers hooked even faster is to be able to write from a perspective where you're like, this is like Rosemary's Baby meets summer camp or whatever was what the example she gave.
Oh, yeah.
And she was like, and so then you've kind of hooked this was just like advice to writers. Then you've like hooked your readers because they kind of know what the suspense is pulling them toward. So I do wonder if there are some people who approach it that way, even when they're like coming up with the idea for the book.
yeah. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Oh, now I'm just thinking about there's a Danielle Valentine book that I really want to read too. We were literally talking about like a YA book that was like Scream meets like Happy Death Day, and it's like YA, and like Steph was like, "Oh, we can cut that out," and I was like, "I don't think that we could ever get Kate to read this when she's like in her like physiological horror era." Like, you don't go from like We Used to Live Here to like Danielle Valentine's YA stuff.
Yeah. It's a definite mood shift. Oh, man.
It has been hard getting so obsessed with that and then reading other books. Like, it gave me a book hangover, that's for sure. I did realize that.
What's the one? Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke. Is that what it's called?
Oh, I've heard of that.
I feel like I know what you're talking about.
It is interesting. I was actually just having this conversation with a few people in a book club because we read a YA book. Oh, it was the new Megan Lally.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just interesting, like how some people felt it was like too YA, juvenile kind of compared to like some of the other books we've read. But I was just like, it's a totally different genre. Like, you know what I mean? Like an adult thriller compared to like a YA thriller. Like, it's not the same. They don't have the same audience. Like, it's inappropriate to have the same expectations.
Right.
Like, so it was just kind of interesting that like people were like, well, I liked this one better than that. And like comparing them, I'm like, I was like, you can't. If you have to like tell yourself you're reading a different genre, like that they're not going to be comparable.
Yes.
Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
My next one I think has a little horror element too. One of my I recently posted my spotlight authors of 2024, and one of my favorites that I've discovered was Rachel Harrison. So I just got one of her books, Such Sharp Teeth, that came out maybe 2 years ago. And I love her a lot so far. A young woman in need of a transformation finds herself in touch with the animal inside in this gripping and incisive novel from the author of Cackle and the Return. Rory Morris isn't thrilled to be moving back to her hometown, even if it's only temporary. There are bad memories there, but her twin sister Scarlett is pregnant, estranged from the baby's father, and needs support. So Rory returns to the place she thought she'd put in her rear view. After a night out at a bar where she runs into Ian, an old almost flame, she hits a large animal with her car, and when she gets out to investigate, she's attacked. Rory survives miraculously, but life begins to look and feel different. She's unnaturally strong with an aversion to silver, and suddenly the moon has her in its thrall. She's changing into someone else, something else, maybe even a monster. But does that mean she's putting those close to her in danger, or is embracing the wildness inside her the key to acceptance? This dark, comedic love story is a brilliantly layered portrait of trauma, rage, and vulnerability. I don't know. I'm into her stuff so far. She has a really snarky voice, and I love it a lot.
And now I really want to start reading hers ever since you said that.
I recently watched Night Bitch with Amy Adams, and I really liked it. I loved it.
Okay.
Did you read it?
I didn't read it. I don't know how I would have. I think I would have had to be in a very specific mood for the storyline of the book, but the movie was really, really good, and I really enjoyed it.
Nice.
I've thought about watching the movie.
Mm-hmm. And also, when you're done reading that book, if you are into that plot, there is a movie called Wolf with Jack Nicholson and Michelle Pfeiffer, and it is one of my favorite movies in the entire world. And it's something very similar, but it's like very dark and like horror noir with like psychological
Sweet.
torture. It's really good.
I talked with, I keep bringing her up, but I talked with Laura about this too, because she said she tried to read the book. Oh my gosh, I'm having hiccup attacks all the time. And she was saying, she brought up how Steph, well, and then Gary, you read Mad Woman, but when Steph and I first talked about it, how we were like, sometimes having the mom stuff in it works, and then sometimes it doesn't. And she said when she started reading the book, she was like, it is so, which is the goal of what the person's going for. She's like, it is just like suffocatingly about motherhood, which makes sense for the book. And because she was even saying like the movie might be easier to digest in that, like that time frame. But I will say for people who might consider reading it, she said it just feels so like claustrophobic. It feels like living in hell, but you know,
because I think that's kind of part of it, right? Get that claustrophobic. Yeah, I heard from what I've heard.
Yeah,
the parenting aspect of the movie just felt like funny, darkly comedic, frustrating, and then like I guess like something as somebody who does not have children, it's like kind of like relatable in the sense that I've heard stories like this from my friends who do have kids. So like it was, like you said, it was a lot easier to digest in a movie.
Yeah, that's what I was realizing, because like it also definitely sounds relatable, but 8 hours of it would be hard in a book.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, the movie is very fun.
Yeah, I have to watch it.
And it's streaming.
It is. I saw Hulu. What else did I? It's on Netflix.
On Netflix?
Yeah. Something else started streaming this week. Oh, it was Wicked.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Juror number 2 though.
Yeah, that was on Max. If
the cast is freaking to die.
Yeah, it's Nicholas Hoult and Toni Collette, right?
Toni Collette, Kiefer Sutherland.
Mm-hmm.
I still have to finish. What's that one with? It's
Dude.
The Great.
Shrinking?
No, The Great with Nick Hoult. It's one of his first things he was in, I think, where she's like Catherine the Great, the princess or the queen, and it's like funny.
Oh yeah, that's on Hulu.
Yeah, I got to the 3rd season, and it like unfortunately it wasn't as good, but like he's really funny.
Yeah, he's kind of having a moment. He's definitely into more stuff.
Yeah.
Have either of you seen Nosferatu or Baby Girl? I was supposed to see Baby Girl on Christmas Day, and instead I had COVID. And I have not gotten over how mad I am that I still have not seen any of these movies.
Blakely Thornton said it was good, which he was skeptical, so I was...
And he's picky.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I know. I just want to
see it. Incredible.
I know. I can't tell.
The popcorn bucket was a little casket. Or like
I saw that.
So cute.
I can't tell. I hear there's like a lot of like body fluids and stuff, and sometimes gross stuff is the thing that does it for me. But everyone's raving about it and how beautifully shot it is and all of that.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to see it. I almost convinced myself to go when I was not testing positive anymore. Whatever. I didn't go yet, but I want to.
Is it supposed to be? I don't find vampires scary, but is it supposed to be like scary or more like a drama? Or
It's gothic horror.
Mm-hmm.
He's not it's not to terrify you. Most people don't feel terrified or like overly scared. What I hear, the most like intelligent explanation that I've heard is that it's exploring the fine line between lust and revulsion. So it's not as much that he's scary, he's just evil, but then like what makes us attracted to that sometimes.
Oh, I get that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Nosferatu is like the original vampire that like was not attractive. Like, you know, when you see like Dracula, it's like Gerard Butler with like Fabio hair. Like, like this is kind of like he said, like repulsive. But there's something about him that like makes everybody want to drop their panties.
Everybody.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we get full frontal of Bill Skarsgård at one point.
I mean, it's a prosthetic.
Didn't you hear that? Is it Nick Holt that has it now?
Yes. Yeah. I just saw that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God.
That's amazing.
Oh, wow. I love their little...
I want to see A Complete Unknown too, because like I've surprisingly loved like Bohemian Rhapsody is probably my favorite biopic of all time. We saw it and we're like sobbing at the end of that movie. And ever since then, we've been chasing the high of a biopic like that. So we'll probably try out A Complete Unknown too, even though we're not Bob Dylan fans.
Oh, dude, Timothée Chalamet's in everything lately.
Yeah, no, he's having a moment too. Well, speaking of horror, my last one is horror. And this is another one that someone said could fill the "We Used to Live Here" sized hole in my bookshelf. And it's called The House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward. This is the story of a serial killer, a stolen child, revenge, death, and an ordinary house at the end of an ordinary street. All these things are true, and yet they are also all lies. You think you know what's inside the last house on Needless Street. You think you've read this story before. That's where you're wrong. In the dark forest at the end of Needless Street lies something buried, but it's not what you think. And I am just all about getting my mind bent as much as I can.
Dude, all the people I know that like I follow on Goodreads gave this like 5 stars or 4 stars.
Everybody's obsessed with it.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of love for her books in general.
Yeah. I know. I feel like I have one of hers on my TBR that wasn't this one.
I've heard they're all like a little, and maybe this is like the philosophical horror that you've talked about.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people have said that they're like a little weird or whatever, and maybe that's just like that abstract, like I don't know, but I think like they all have a certain quality to them, and maybe it's that.
Yeah, it's what I love about Westworld, because I've been thinking about that too. Westworld really makes you think about things, but that would be more in a tech sense. But yeah, it sounds like she does it in the horror sense.
I didn't know that there was a serial killer in this book.
I know, it opened up with it. I didn't think so either. So now Gare's gonna read it.
I was gonna say, so it's actually on Kindle Unlimited too, for anybody listening. But I just added it to my library, so maybe when you read it, I would read it with you.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think there is a perspective of a cat.
Oh, that's cool. You guys know more about this than I do.
Just from reviews.
Yeah.
But you guys know that I would be a cat in other life, so
I think you and I were just talking about how like I have a cat personality, but I'm a dog person.
Yeah. They're not always the same.
Exactly. I mean, I'm allergic to cats, so like that's why.
I'm allergic to cats too. I definitely think I would be.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about cats, but like I know that like some people have said that there are like certain like breeds of cats that are like a lot meaner, like just like really bitchy. Yeah.
Usually,
so whatever
and they're self-absorbed, and I just know I am. Like, I'm not going out of my way. Like how dogs are like, "Oh my gosh, you're here! I'm going to say hi. I'm going to jump in your lap."
Yeah.
And cats are like, "Oh, you're back. I just sent
this thing to to Kate that was like, so jealous of cats, to be honest. Imagine being a huge bitch literally all the time, and the person who takes care of you is like, aw.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I like love about cats is that like one person like be like, oh my god, like you're disgusting, I'm going to attack you, like you make me want to throw up. But then like you see somebody that you like and you're like, oh my god, I can't wait to like, cuddle you and like love you. And like that's kind of how I feel like as a person.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Exactly.
you can either like get a huge hug from me and like I'll take you out to dinner for no reason and just like spoil you, or like I will emotionally rip you apart.
Yeah.
I guess I am a cat.
My emotionally ripping apart is once I'm done with you, I am done. Like, done. I don't care. I won't even tell you we're done. You will just never hear from me again. And that is your punishment for treating me the way that you did.
I'm not good at that. I am good at arguing.
I haven't had to do it many times.
I am very good at arguing.
Mm-hmm.
And emotional chaos. Speaking of emotional chaos.
There we go.
So I've read a couple of books by Lisa Gray, and I absolutely love them. So I really want to read Thin Air by her. This is the first in a series, and there's 4 books, and they all have like thriller tropes in them that I'm like very invested in. But this is the first one, and it's about private investigator Jessica Shaw. She's used to getting anonymous tips, but after receiving a photo of a 3-year-old kidnapped from Los Angeles 25 years ago, Jessica is stunned to recognize the little girl as herself. Eager for answers, Jessica heads to the LA's dark underbelly. When she learns that her biological mother was killed the night she was abducted, Jessica's determined to solve the case the police have forgotten. Meanwhile, veteran LAPD detective Jason Price is in the midst of a gruesome investigation into a murdered college student moonlighting as a sex worker. A chance encounter leads them into crossing paths, but Jessica soon realizes that Price is hiding something about her father's checkered history and her mother's death. To solve her mother's murder and her own disappearance, Jessica must dig deep into the past and find the secrets buried there. But the air gets thinner as she crawls closer to the truth, and it's getting harder and harder to breathe.
That is not where
Kate looks horrified.
Gonna go.
I think you're muted.
Yeah.
Kate, great.
Yep, I was coughing like way too much. So then the harder to breathe part, I was like,
You look horrified. I was like, yes. Yes. And I think I think the second book is she's investigating like like a cold case murder of college students like decades prior, which I love a cold case. The third book is like women who are missing and murdered on like a highway, and she thinks it's like they're connected. And then book 4 is about the murder of a woman who had a child with a man on death row who was a serial killer.
Damn.
So I was like, this series is like,
yeah,
these are all things that like will keep me invested. So
totally.
that's what I want to read.
When I just saw the title, I thought it was going to be like a survival thriller more. And then like in the mountains or something.
Yeah. Then the palm trees.
Yeah. My last one actually, it's interesting that we did like a lot of thrillers, but like a lot of horror today. This one's going the other direction. I think this is more of like a drama suspense. This year I really loved one of the like Bookstagram darlings was The Wedding People by Alison Espach. Espach. Espach, and her book prior is called Notes on Your Sudden Disappearance, which definitely sounds
seen before.
Yeah, but I really liked her writing style, and so I want to get into more of her stuff. Shockingly, the blurb is from Ruthie Thorpe, who wrote Margot's Got Money Troubles, which I bought. Never shut up about. For much of her life, Sally Holt has been mystified by the things her older sister Kathy seems to have been born knowing. Kathy has answers for all of Sally's questions about life, about love, and about Billy Barnes, a rising senior and local basketball star who mans the concession stand at the town pool. The girls have been fascinated by Billy ever since he jumped off the roof in elementary school, but Billy has never shown much interest in them until the summer before Sally begins 8th grade. By then, their mutual infatuation with Billy is one of the few things the increasingly different sisters have in common. Sally spends much of that summer at the pool, watching in confusion and excitement as her sister falls deeper in love with Billy until a tragedy leaves Sally's life forever intertwined with his. Opening in the early 90s and charting almost 2 decades of shared history and misconnections, Notes on Your Sudden Disappearance is both a breathtaking love story about 2 broken people who are unexplainably, inconveniently drawn to each other and a wryly astute coming-of-age tale brimming with unexpected moments of joy. So, I will say I got into some dramas this year, and they've been some of my favorite of the year. Some of the women's fiction, I guess you'll say.
It's so silly calling it that because we don't call men's fiction.
I have an idea of men's fiction, of like stuff blowing up and like military thrillers or something. But like, yeah.
Jack Reacher.
Exactly. Like when I read a like military thriller, I'm not like, oh, I read men's fiction.
I know. Right.
Huh. That's a good point.
I mean, sometimes a label helps me be interested, but like, I don't know. I agree. I'm like, what is that?
Contemporary fiction.
Yeah, I would say that's more it.
I do love a contemporary fiction that has like a little bit of a mystery element to it.
Yeah.
I think The Crooked Tree by Una Manon is one of the ones that I really enjoyed. It's like a mother who's like fed up with her kids fighting and bickering and stuff. And so like a short ways from their house when they're driving, she gets out and makes like her daughter or son walk home as like punishment, but he never comes home and like vanishes.
Wow.
And the cover's sensational.
The Crooked Tree.
Yeah, I think that honestly, a lot of contemporary fiction, like we've talked about a couple times, like I read The 3 Lives of Kate Kay, and like even if you think about like the popular 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, like there are reveals, like there are unknowns, and I think that makes it exciting.
It's that same thing with Steph and I are just gonna keep talking about it. That with the favorites is the same thing. Like there are constant reveals when you're reading it, even though it's not a thriller.
Well, that's how I felt with like Tell Me Lies and a lot of like Corolla Lovering books, and like those always hit with me. I'm trying to think what else. Valhalla. That was a really good one.
Oh, I've seen that all over and heard like up and downs, so I never really knew if I should pick it up.
I loved it. I loved Valhalla.
I've never even seen this.
Oh, it's good.
What's your like 1 sentence plot or like 2 sentence plot of Valhalla? I don't even remember what it's about.
I know that like it was like messed up friendships.
Yeah, this says female friendship between the lethally glamorous 4th woman who infiltrates the group.
Yeah.
So it sounds like an outsider comes in.
It's like toxic friendship meets like shocking reveals.
That cover's so pretty.
I think they did like international covers too, where like every cover had like one of the different 4 main women.
Oh, that's cool. Oh yeah, I see one like that too with 4 women. That's cool.
Just saw when I was looking up Such Sharp Teeth, I saw a cover that like I like having hardcovers of like my trophy books, but the paperback cover looks so good. I almost thought it was the UK cover, but it's just the paperback. And I was like, damn.
Oh, Such Sharp Teeth. I want to look at it.
Yeah, but I just want to I like having matching format collections.
I know.
Of certain authors, so. Which can be like a type A person struggle when their first books are only paperback and then but you prefer hardcovers like I do for my collections.